I always say I shouldn't have left you without a dope beat to step to, and so I brought Jimmy Stein back to talk about this Iron Bowl.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, you're muted for some reason.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Bama.
You started the whole show mute. Now, that's new. That's new.
Start off with a mute.
It's like starting the game with the delay of game penalty.
Well, I've used the wrong bumper thing, and then I've used the mute. Anyway, hey, everybody, welcome back into the Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson with the AHSA Radio Network. That's me. Bama Online is Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We'll talk about FanDuel in just a bit. But right now, I'm going to tell you about how Alabama beat Auburn 28-6 because I personally refuse to give Auburn 8 points on a just atrocious, one of the worst no calls you will ever see. Jimmy, but we're going to keep it positive right now. I'm
looking forward to you telling me this. I just saw the game live and was not able to see it on TV, and they don't show controversial replays.
Well, then we'll start with that. You watch that replay, and you tell me why in the world 2 Alabama players get unsportsmanlike, and they're on Auburn sidelines where they're surrounded by Auburn people, and Keandre Lambert-Smith blocked Devontae Smith out of beyond the bench area, and he got nothing. Auburn people were swinging.
I was telling, now, first of all, where that happened in the stadium was the complete opposite of where I sit in the stadium. So I saw nothing other than Devontae and Keandre Lambert-Smith fly into the Auburn. We could see nothing back over there. But what I did see, Devontae was so mad, I knew something really bad had happened. Now, Devontae's a fiery guy, but I knew something happened to get Devontae and Malachi that fired up. And I was commenting to everyone around me, I'm really looking forward to seeing the replay there, because for Devontae to be that hot, there's no way something didn't happen. So I'm glad that you're telling me that, because it makes more sense now.
It was so bad. I can't put it into words how infuriating it was.
Yeah.
It was just, and then on the same drive, Peyton Thorne, in my opinion, again, I guess I need to go back and see it. I replayed it once. It was intentional grounding, and he was 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and the ball didn't make it the line of scrimmage.
Ball didn't make it the line of scrimmage. And again, let's do a whole show. I think we should do a whole show this week now that the regular season's over. Let's do a whole show this week where I rant for 28 minutes, which is kind of the length of the show, about officiating in this league and about how and I don't think doing how the NFL is going to do is going to fix everything, because the NFL has bad calls too. I mean, there's still bad calls in the NFL, but I think switching to full-time professional referees, you've got to do it, but not because it's going to fix everything, but because it will improve things. And you need to improve things. If we can pay a player $12 million, like Michigan's going to pay Bryce Underwood, if you can pay a player $12 million, you can start paying officials to be professional full-time referees that work at it year-round like the NFL guys do. And they've got to do that. And I'm a Greg Sankey fan, and I'm real appreciative for what he's done to the SEC, making it the premier conference in all of college football by miles and miles. But I'm mad about Sankey's public. I understand he's got to defend his officials. I understand why he's got to do that. But it's so disingenuous. We're not idiots. It's terrible. The officiating is terrible.
If he came out and said it was a hard year for officials, I think everybody'd go, yeah, you're understating it, but we get you can't say more than that.
Yes, we get that it's a hard job. We get that they're going to get some of it wrong, but it's beyond that. It's terrible, and it's changing the outcome of games that everybody pays to see.
That game, the Alabama Auburn game, Auburn does not score a touchdown. In my opinion, if they call that the way it should have been called, which was offsetting penalties. I swear to God, if they had just called it on Auburn, I would have understood it. The way Keandre Lambert-Smith blocked him out of the back of the into the brick wall on the side. If they had just called it on him, I would have understood it. To just call it on 2 Alabama guys is disgusting.
And it happened to us in the Vanderbilt game too. Remember when we got called for a personal foul that should have been minimum offsetting, but it was just on Alabama? So crazy that it happened
Now,
again and again. The grounding on Peyton Thorne calls, there's a holding call. Even my wife is going, holding. She can see it from the 50th row. How can they not see it? You know?
So, all right, let's move past that for a second. I mean, they stink. I do want
They do.
I do want to say
We have our own issues on the team, but hey, I love that they won this game, and I want to remind everybody that's like, oh, they won 28-14, they turned over the ball 4 times. A lot of Alabama fans I talked to all week long said that Alabama wasn't going to win this game, that Alabama couldn't win this game, that the Alabama team we saw in Oklahoma was apparently going to be the same Alabama team that played today. I think they did a great job of getting off the mat, being physical. I thought it was a really physical performance by the defense. And offensively, there were a lot of errors, but there was also a lot of greatness too. And special shout out to Jeremy Bernard and Josh Cuevas. And, of course, Jalen, for the most part, played really well.
Yeah, I mean, it is wild. 3 touchdowns and 3 turnovers for one person is pretty crazy. 250 yards passing, over 100 yards rushing. Well, and really, he's the only reason Auburn's in it.
I've already said this. You know, Jalen's whole season, he's obviously is the most interesting person to talk about. Jalen's whole season has been full of incredible highs and really bad lows. I don't think even today people realize how great that Georgia performance was. Again, it was the most productive game by a quarterback in college football history against a top 5 opponent ever. So he's had that immense high, but then he's had lows where, quite frankly, he didn't give his team a chance to win the game because it was so bad. And I thought today, Jalen's 60 minutes against Auburn, perhaps his final game playing in Bryant-Denny, was a microcosm of the whole season. That was Jalen's whole season in 60 minutes. If it wasn't for great Jalen, Alabama may not win the game. If it wasn't for bad Jalen, the game wouldn't have been close. You know, and we got great Jalen and bad Jalen all in 60 minutes, and it showed kind of like what the whole season's been like for him. But because it's his last game at Bryant-Denny myself, I don't want to appreciate Jalen for all the great stuff. I mean, Alabama doesn't beat Georgia twice in the past 12 months without Jalen Milroe is why Alabama did things like win the SEC and make a 14 playoff last year. Jalen Milroe is why Alabama beat Georgia this year, why Alabama beat Auburn tonight. Jalen Milroe is why. Is there bad? Is there flaws? Yes, but let's be appreciative in the last game, right?
And, I mean, it is fair for those who don't like Milroe. I do. But for those who don't, to say, well, if it's not for Jalen Milroe, we probably beat South Carolina a little worse. Maybe. If it's not for Jalen Milroe, we beat Tennessee if we do have a little more accurate. Maybe. But I think in the end, the good has outweighed the bad by a significant margin for Jalen Milroe.
No doubt.
So let's appreciate this man. So let's just do it like that. Want to tell you about Game Time. You know I love Game Time. And if you went to the Iron Bowl, you probably use Game Time. And I don't blame you because this is awesome. I was going to go to the game with all my children, a bunch of them. And I was going to use Game Time because the tickets had gotten down to like $132 each. I was like, yeah, I should do that. But then I just logistically it didn't make any sense, so I couldn't do it. But had I gone, it had been my first. What I would have done is told my son to download the app and use code Locked On College because I would have gotten $20 off that order. That's what I would have done. And that would have been smart. This is the same son I used Game Time to send to the World Series back when Arizona Diamondbacks went. And I've taken this same son to a Phoenix Suns game via Game Time. I've taken another son to an Alabama baseball game. I've taken all my children to an Alabama football game, taken all my children to an Alabama basketball game, all thanks to Game Time. This Game Time's the best. Go download the Game Time app. You will love it. Go get that Game Time app. Tell them Big Daddy Luke sent you. I would appreciate if none of you ever call me that.
That's the first time I've heard it all. I don't think I'd heard Big Daddy Luke before. Well, that makes some sense. You have 14 kids.
I got to put, before we go back into the game, and we want to talk about the playoffs some too. Jerry Merriman says, glad Bama won, but they're not a playoff team. Can we be honest that our offensive line almost never gets any push on the defensive side of the ball, our defensive line? We are undisciplined and make too many penalties. First of all, I've already told you, most of these penalties tonight stunk. They weren't our fault. I can live with that. Secondly, we had Jalen Milroe rush for 100, and our running back, Jam Miller, ran for 84. That's not a bad push. So, again, I understand that it isn't the best offensive line in the world, and they stunk to high heaven against Oklahoma. And also, here's the other thing. Yeah, if this were a 14 playoff, I would 100% agree we shouldn't go to the playoffs. It's a 12-team playoff, and we're going to have fancy pants teams like Indiana get in when they've played a 2A football schedule. So, yeah, if we get in, I'm taking it, baby. Everybody but Jimmy and me wanted this expansion. And now if you tell me I'm not going to take advantage of it after we tried to tell y'all, hey, undeserving teams are going to get in, and if we happen to be one of those undeserving teams, I'll take it.
I mean, I appreciate that Jeff says Alabama's undeserving. I don't even disagree. I think when you lose to Vanderbilt and a 5-5 Oklahoma team, you probably don't deserve to get in. But Jeff, are you saying that, for instance, Miami deserves to be in? Does Indiana deserve to be in? Does SMU deserve to be in? Does a 3-loss South Carolina who lost to Alabama, do they deserve to be in? So it's not about Alabama. It's about how Alabama's case stacks up to these other teams' cases. And Alabama may have a better case than some of these other teams that get in. As an Alabama fan, you should be upset about that. If Alabama gets the short end of the stick when fairly they should be in, you should be upset about that, not upset about losing to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. So I get, did Alabama kick the door down? No. If Alabama gets in, they got in through the back door. But it's about who's got the best cases to be in. And if Alabama's one of those 12 teams, then I'm going to celebrate that. And I'm going to get excited about the playoff. And by the way, Alabama's got a better chance to win games in the playoff than some of these teams that we know are in. For instance, Alabama at Penn State or Indiana at Penn State. Who do you think's got a better chance to beat the Nittany Lions up there in Pennsylvania? I would tell you it's Alabama.
Yeah, I'll take that. And look, it's snowing. It's okay. I don't care if it's snowing, raining, sleeting, drought. Just send me to the playoffs. Everybody wanted this 12-team playoff. I say everybody. I don't know if all y'all did. Everybody wanted it. And Jimmy and I were on this podcast and every other show we go on and telling people are going to get in who don't deserve it. And if we happen to be the team that doesn't deserve it, I will take it. So
that's a good way to put it.
Now,
I would like to be the team that doesn't deserve it.
Give me that. Give me all that don't deserve it. Just get me in there.
And now, one of the reasons Alabama would get in if they did is because Alabama has a legit chance to win games in the playoff. Some of these other teams don't. I mean, I'm not trying to trash SMU or Indiana, but do they have a legit chance to win at Tennessee? And I know you're saying, well, Alabama lost at Tennessee. Yes, but you know who has a better chance to win at Tennessee than Indiana or SMU? Alabama.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, we'll see. But I'm not going to. To me, I would rather, and I'm excited about SMU. I mean, I'm sorry, Miami losing to Syracuse, Clemson losing to South Carolina. These things helped Alabama, and I'm going to really think through this in the next 24 hours or so. But for now, I'm just going to be excited about beating Auburn, because the reason I'm excited isn't because I felt like Alabama, that was an A+ performance. It was a good performance.
Yeah.
I don't know it was an A+, but the reason I'm excited, Luke, had that gone the other way, this would have been a long 9 months.
Oh, God. It would have been our most watched show of all time, because you would have seen Luke have a come apart on live internet television, whatever this is. Now, I'll give Jeff this. He comes back with, I'm against the 12-team playoff. I want hopefully the best 4 teams. That's what we've been saying. We said this. But now, see, that's over. Forget it. We ain't going back. So embrace the 12 team and understand that teams that don't deserve it will get in. And it just may so happen that this year we are that team. We may be that team that everybody says they shouldn't be there. Well, we are, because you know what? Y'all all beat the drum for this thing. Now, let me also say this, and I said it on the other pod that I did live without you, which was much better, by the way.
Of course.
Teaser.
Oh, no doubt. You had some wise takes.
And I've just happened to have forgotten.
That I'll never hear.
But anyway, yeah, you're not going to listen to. The irony of this isn't lost on me. DeMarcus Riddick talking his talk and then getting beat to the corner by Jalen Milroe is poetic justice. But also DeMarcus Riddick saying Ryan Williams isn't that special and then playing like he's not that special kind of offsets each other.
Yeah.
Because Ryan Williams, we all know this, a lesser wide receiver, much lesser than Ryan Williams would have caught that pass that Jalen Milroe put out there that I would argue is Jalen Milroe's best pass of the year.
Mm-hmm. Should have been caught. One of the things I felt really certain about coming into the game was that Ryan was going to play great. I thought, boy, Auburn miscalculated picking on Ryan. But you know what? It was not Ryan's best game. As a matter of fact, may have been one of Ryan's worst games. Tonight was kind of the Jeremy Bernard game as far as the wide receivers go. And a little disappointing that Ryan didn't kind of stand up and make plays when he was called out by the other team. But, hey, one thing I feel pretty good about going forward is Ryan Williams. So just because he didn't play great tonight or didn't play his best tonight, I know what we've got in that kid. He is special, but it was, I don't know. I think disappointing is too strong of a word, but I expected Ryan to be great tonight because of what DeMarcus Riddick said, and he wasn't. And I'm a little surprised by that. But
was that his youth showing? I mean, I don't mean that.
Maybe.
I mean it funny and not funny.
No, I think you're right. We have to remember all the, wow, he's 17 years old. That works both ways. And maybe we should be reminded of it just because of this. Saraland won convincingly in the semifinal, and they're going to play for the 6A state championship this week. And Saraland looks good as ever. And we need to remember, as good as Saraland is, Ryan Williams is supposed to be on that team. Ryan is supposed to be, this Saraland team that's been dominant without him is supposed to have Ryan. And that's a good reminder for us about how young Ryan really is. And I think maybe it might have been some youth tonight where he fumbles and then he doesn't catch the well-thrown deep ball. And really we needed Jeremy Bernard to be wide receiver one tonight. And he was, and he's great. And Josh Cuevas was great. And CJ Dupree was great. And Jalen too. So, hey, Script A, I'm glad you threw in that stuff about the seniors. Couldn't agree more. Some of these seniors can be disappointing that we don't get to see them play for Alabama again because so many of them had storied careers, like Burnup, long snapper.
Burnup was a king.
Burnup was back. Burnup's back. Nealon Hibbett, a long snapper, 4-year starter for Alabama with virtually no bad plays. I mean, Nealon Hibbett, a long snapping legend. I just called him that. Hugh Robinson, who's hurt and can't play. He won't be back at Bryant Denny. Tim Smith, who's been a quality player. How about this? A 4-year guy in terms of playing with the ones. For 4 years, he's been playing with the first team. Good player. Jamarian Latham, another great multi-year contributor at Alabama. So many of these seniors, and I'm sure I'm leaving some out, but gosh, and probably Jalen Milroe's last game. My guess, I've said it all along. I'm going to call it a guess. Yeah, it's based on a little inside knowledge, but I feel like Jalen is likely to head to the NFL.
And again, more power to him. I think that is best for all parties, even though I would kind of love him to come back in a sense to break a lot of records, but I think it is best for everybody that, move on and kick butt in the NFL and represent us, and we'll try to hold up your good name. Talk a little FanDuel, because I love FanDuel, and you will too. If you go check out FanDuel.com, you will love it. It's an app. It's also a website. It's everything that you want. Thank you, Al Gore, FanDuel.com is where you want to go. And if you win your first $5 bet, you get $150 in bonus bets. That's hard to beat. And, of course, FanDuel is an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You can't beat FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. They say it right in their advertising. It's the #1 sportsbook in America. I'm not sitting over here telling you stories. Go to FanDuel.com. You got plenty of time to get in on some other games tonight or tomorrow because they're a official sportsbook partner of the NFL. That's FanDuel. You will never regret going to see FanDuel. I was as awkward as I can make a live read.
I like old FanDuel though.
I do love FanDuel.
They're steady. They're steady. They're steady. They're consistent.
They've been steady Eddie for us. They have.
You know what you're getting.
I'm trying to find finally ESPN has put up the defensive statistics, and I cannot wait to look up our good friend DeMarcus Riddick, who had 2 tackles, and that's it. Now, and I'm not mad at DeMarcus Riddick. Again, I said this before. I thought he was in a no harm, no foul situation.
Isn't that the kid that said he was never going to lose to Alabama entire career at Auburn?
Yeah. Yeah, he said that.
He was wrong.
First of all, he's already wrong.
He's wrong.
But he's also said he's faster than Jalen Milroe. He's wrong about that.
He was wrong about that when he said it.
He's wrong about Ryan Williams, even though in this game he would be proven correct. Now, I want to give a shout out to an Auburn player. Let me tell you somebody I would love. If I could have one player from Auburn's team, it would be Keldrick Fall. That dude's a dude.
Yeah, he's a good player.
He's a dude.
Good player. He's he is really good. And they do have a good player. I think here's the weird thing to me about Auburn. Of course, I don't get to watch. Can y'all go live in a playoff game if we make it during the game? No, we can't do that and describe the game. I think that's against the rules. But I do think that Auburn. Here's the weird thing: they're coached by an offensive guy. Hugh Freeze is an offensive guy. I can't help but think Auburn's defense is coached a little better than their offense. You know what I mean? To me, Auburn's defense, they get more, they squeeze more out of their talent level than maybe any defensive staff in this league. I mean, in terms of I can't believe they're as good as they are, but they are good. And that's, to me, good coaching. I don't know that I would say the same about Auburn's offense, who does have a really gifted running back. Peyton Thorne is a very experienced quarterback. They've got some dudes at receiver, Lambert Smith and Cam Coleman, who showed out, I thought, a little bit tonight. Fairweather at tight end. The offensive line's not bad, but I just think Auburn is better coached on the defensive side of the ball. Now, I realize I don't study, 12 games of Auburn like I do Alabama, but that's what it looks like to me. Yeah, and again, I'm just trying to be nice here because I know we got some Auburn people listening, but I do mean it. That Keldrick Fall's a dude. Yeah, he's a good player. He's a good player, and I'd take him in the transfer portal. I'm just saying, if he were to get in the transfer portal, not trying to tamper. Cam Coleman, I thought, had a decent game. With a better quarterback, he'll be hell on wheels. There's no doubt. And it'll be interesting to see who's the Auburn's quarterback next year. Is it Walker White? Is it Deuce Knight? And is it a transfer portal guy? I'm going to go ahead and out on a limb. Is transfer portal guy? I think it'll be transfer portal guy too. I think Hugh took a lot of heat for not getting a portal guy in this last cycle, and I think he's going to sort of get a portal guy to sort of answer some of that criticism. But it'd be interesting to see what they get. I know fans are always going to want the guy that they know, which is the super high profile guy. But like I said all year long, there's Auburn fans like, wow, we should have spent the money and got Cam Ward. All you needed was Diego Pavia. All you needed was – you don't need Cam Ward. You need to be smart. Get the smart guy. Get the guy that fits what you need. You don't have to go break the bank and spend millions necessarily. Had Auburn signed Diego Pavia, you wonder if Auburn doesn't have the sort of magic season Vanderbilt had, but a magic season for Auburn isn't 6-6 like the Vandy season went. This is the strangest comment we've ever gotten on this show, so I'm going to do it. The Apostle John wrote about the angel of the Church of Philadelphia in Revelation 3:7. John Kleck is the angel of the Church of Philadelphia. I'm not sure what a lot of that means, but I know that I was praying several times during the Iron Bowls. That counts for anything.
Anyway,
Philadelphia.
Freeze has come out with a comment. By the way, let me say this about that. We called Brian Kelly a punk on here because his team ran the hurry up and let's go score a touchdown against Alabama, even though we hadn't scored all game. Let's go score one. And they scored one with 13 seconds left against our, second, third team. And then he was mad we were still blitzing. It's a complete punk move. Freeze out-punked a punk tonight. He was trying so hard to get KLS his 1,000 yards. Let's get him. Let's just throw it out to him. And even though they're playing prevent, let's just, because even though the game's over, it doesn't mean anything. Let's just do this. Because obviously he wasn't trying to win the game anymore. It was over. And what I'm so thankful for is Keandre Lambert-Smith fell 19 yards short of 1,000. So Hugh Freeze, you lose again. And he also came out with his little halfback pass thing, which was so dumb. And Jimmy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was 2016 when Auburn did a fullback pass, and it was intercepted by Sean Deion Hamilton, who at the time I think was a freshman. So the last two times Auburn's tried a halfback pass, we've intercepted both of them.
And tonight's was in particularly really bad. I mean, shout out to Bray Hubbard for making that pick and making the play and finishing the play by catching the ball, because he took a big shot after he secured it. But boy, that was a really bad, that was a really poorly executed play by the Auburn back. Because as soon as that ball was in the air, I'm like, that ball is headed right to Bray Hubbard.
Well, and the thing was, that was when Thorne was actually playing well. It's like when Thorne is playing well, you're like, I don't even believe this. There's no way he's playing well. We got to do something different. And you know what Freeze came out and said? This is funny. This is a quote. I'm reading a quote from him. Obviously, we didn't coach it well enough, Freeze says. The throw downfield wasn't there, so Hunter was supposed to throw it back to Peyton Thorne for a screen. That would have been brilliant. I mean, again, I'm saying this as if I were an Auburn fan. I'm like, what on earth are you doing? It's the one time Peyton Thorne had a rhythm going, and you want your running back, who you've decided to quit using, who is good, to throw the pass. Right. He's trying to get fired.
Okay.
It's a sweet deal that you get when you get fired from Auburn. I agree. It'd be a hell of a deal. I'd love to have it. But I think trying to get fired seems a little bit much. And here's the other thing that is so bizarre. By the way, I saw an Auburn message board. They're calling Hugh Freeze now Bust Malzahn, which is weird because Gus Malzahn just left Central Florida to take the offensive coordinator job at Florida State.
I wonder if
guess who Alabama opens up with next year?
Oh, yeah. I wonder if my first thought when I heard that, I heard that at the game, is I wonder if Gus was just staying one step ahead of the firing squad at UCF. I mean, was he about to be fired? I think is a reasonable question.
You mean this? You can't fire me, I quit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wondering because there's a lot of talk that Gus was going to get canned in Orlando, but he's a pretty good offensive mind. Florida State had an absolute mess, and this season's far from over. I'm still hoping Alabama has made its way into the playoff, which I do think is possible. I hope so, but even if not, we'd have a big bowl game against probably Illinois in the Citrus Bowl. I don't want to really start talking about Florida State next year until we get beyond that. But boy, what an interesting opener for Alabama. We'll be able to. We'll spend months on that about what Florida State are we going to see next August. And now you've got Gus Malzahn, our old friend Gus, will be the OC and running his offense. And who's going to be the quarterback? I mean, Florida State's almost certainly going to have a portal guy too.
Well, by the way, somebody else says, do you see any coordinator changes? If there is one, I think it'd be offensive, I hope. Because I'm going to tell you something. Kane Womack, and I just realized this tonight in the middle of the Auburn game, he gave up essentially no touchdowns against LSU. Essentially none, right?
Right.
That last one doesn't count. He gave up a miracle catch against Mercer. Against Oklahoma, yes, we lose 24-3. 7 of them were pick six. 10. 7 of them were set up right there at the goal line. So
he only really gave up 10.
Then tonight, in my opinion, he gave up 2 field goals.
6. And
in fact, one of those was set up by penalty. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you another thing that we hadn't talked about enough. I should have talked about it right before the half. Hugh Freeze pushed out on his team when they didn't go for it on 4th and 2 from that goal line. I thought he lost the team. If this not for that horrible call where Alabama gets penalized and Auburn doesn't in the fight, the game's over because I think Auburn would have quit on it.
Very well could have happened. Very well could have happened. For a game that Alabama won, 28-14 in the real score, that game was so close to being a real blowout, but for some of the calls and Alabama's turnovers, and Alabama did those things. And, that's one of the things going forward you have to address, particularly if you're going to play playoff games. And that might happen. I'm looking forward to studying that situation on Sunday morning.
All right, guys, we will be back probably tomorrow afternoon, okay? I got to take my kids to Louisville. So what we did was we went ahead and did 2 shows tonight, hoping to try and cover a lot of bases. Definitely going to go watch Bama Hoops. Go watch Bama Hoops. And thank God, Jimmy, I said this in the solo pod. Thank God Alabama won football so more people watch basketball tonight, because it would have been a depressing night, and there's no way I could have watched basketball. I would have been depressed. So anyway, roll Tide, everybody. 5 in a row. What did 5 fingers say to the face? Slap. So until tomorrow, roll Tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.